Arganissima, New York. Your exotic skin, hair, and beauty source, and your one-stop shop for all your natural and organic skin and hair care, featuring authentic organic Moroccan oil and prickly pear seed oil and much more. Bringing you only the best, straight from the source and proudly produced in the USA. So what are you waiting for? Shop today at www.arganissima.com. Arganissima, New York. Your beauty is our duty.
Folks, welcome back to the iHealth channel, iHealth Radio. We're your host, Hurricane H, new day, new show, new topic. Great guest. Of course, all my guests are great, and but today is going to be a different, spin on a topic we've talked about in the past. But this is going to give us a little bit of an invention concept, some legal stuff, and also some background on the practice of chiropractic medicine. So with me, I have Jeff Fisher, who is actually doctor of chiropractic. And he's going to tell us about his practice, but also his invention, which is, literally utilized today in the industry. And it's a core system that helps people. And then also he's going to talk to us about some other work he does. Very interesting stuff. So we got a real nice ride today. So let's welcome Jeff to the show. Jeff, welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me. Appreciate your time.
No, my pleasure, man. I know, this was exciting because most of the people hear about chiropractic and chiropractors, and they just think that, you guys are the ones who just kind of pop the bones and and just make them feel good.
Right.
I've used chiropractic myself, in the past. I had an injury and, I had it as part of my treatment, and it was great. It does that, but it does a lot more. But just for, as in the initial, stage of this discussion, can you just guide us through what does a chiropractic, doctor do, and what is chiropractic medicine in general? And then we can start, dissecting the rest of it.
Right. Well, so I think the best analogy, which I use with my patients, is if you think of a chiropractor as an orthodontist of the spine, for the most part, where our job is to, like teeth, to kind of pull them back into being straight by putting braces on teeth. We use our hands or different tools or apparatuses to move bones in the same correct positioning over and over and over again to restore normal curves. So we actually accomplish a few things at the same time. As one, we're trying to restore the normal alignment that God intended for our bodies to walk on the planet versus gravity, one. And then two is to restore normal motion, which is key to us enjoying every aspect of our normal daily lives and having fun. And then the third thing, which is incredibly important, is restoring our nervous system. So the messages that come from our brain go down our spinal cord and then out through our nerves to control our muscles and tissues and organs and all the important functions that we need as humans. So I would say chiropractic in a nutshell is the restoration of normal curves, the restoration of normal motion, and the third, which is probably maybe the most important, is the restoration of our neurological system and its ability to function at its maximum capacity. So kind of in a nutshell there.
I love it. And as a matter of fact, I love how you started with you're the orthodontist of the system, right? That's just funny as an analogy, but I mean, I can see that. I mean, it's amazing how you put that, and we all understand that you have problems with your teeth and you got to fix them and get them in place and do all that work. And you're right, but our body, our skeleton is there, and you have all these structures that's the founding structure of our bodies, right? I mean, without this whole thing, you're not going to be like, you'll be like a little dummy, right? So it's important to have the right posture, and that's something that we all experience in life. I think everybody at a certain point of their life, they have problems in their spine, neck, in other parts of the body and the nerve system. We hear about pinched nerves, we hear about, all these things. And, now more than ever, you and I were having the discussion about the phones. We all like looking like this, and our neck is like all crooked. We all like, have that little problem on our neck these days.
Yeah.
I mean, like we can live. I mean, I've seen these little inventions that they have now in the market where you put it on the neck and you put a phone so it starts in front of you, so you don't have to.
Yeah.
You just and also it is. I know for a fact that this is something that a practice that helps a lot in the accident world. I mean, people get injured. I mean, it's almost like a necessary piece of the practice, or at least the prognosis treatments. And so let's talk about all that. Like some of the implications or applications rather of the chiropractic medicine.
Yeah. So if you think of it as all healthcare and all treatment, you want to start with the most conservative levels of care first. I mean, nobody wants to jump into surgery right away. Of course, right? And most people are kind of afraid of having surgery. And by the way, I've had 3 surgeries on my neck. So unfortunately for me, I know the ramifications of having some severe, spinal injuries as good as anybody on the planet. But if you look at healthcare overall, you always want to start at the most conservative level first. And most people jump right into over-the-counter medication. And at that level, it's at the lowest level where you're only treating the symptoms of how you feel. You're not really getting to the source or the origin of the problem. You're covering it up. And there are some, good applications for that. I always tell my patients, I don't want you to suffer. So if you have to take some over-the-counter medication for a short period of time, just to make sure you're not suffering from the pain, then hey, do it. But it's not a long-term solution. So from that level, at the very lowest level of taking, pain medication, then you move up into different therapies. You have, physical therapy, you have massage, you have stretching, you have training, working out with weights and things like that. And if you have problems that are more on a muscular level, you can handle a lot of those issues with those types of conservative care. And then the next level up is chiropractic, because in chiropractic, with our spinal adjustments and trying to correct the spine, we can get into the spine and help the function and the positioning and the relief of pressure on nerves. And in many instances, especially with car accident patients, people that are hurt at work, any type of spinal injuries that don't need surgery, we can handle those. So there's a huge area or huge volume of patients that chiropractic can help. And what we're taught, and what we, because I teach at my school, the Southern California University of Health Sciences, we train our students and our interns that you go through your course of chiropractic treatment. And if you do it for a month or 2 months, and the patient just isn't getting any better, or, God forbid, they're actually getting worse, it's your obligation to refer them out to the next level, which, might be seeing an orthopedist or a neurologist, where then, maybe you take MRIs or CAT scans to evaluate the human frame at a greater level, more in depth, to see if there are issues there that just can't be handled conservatively. And then they might be a surgical candidate. But, surgery is, of course, at the very highest point. But, there's this huge gap that didn't always exist between, where the lower levels of conservative care all the way up to surgery wasn't handled, but chiropractic can handle, this large area in between. And, thank God that things have evolved since I've been practicing for 32 years now, that we work really, really well with orthopedists. I have a great orthopedist. Matter of fact, he's the guy that did 2 of my surgeries in my neck. Fantastic surgeon, Nitin Bhatia. He was the head of spine for UCI, which is a huge university out here in California. And we refer patients back and forth all the time. He refers patients to me. I refer patients to him that I can't handle, and I'll send him people, and he'll send them back and say, "Hey, get back there, get back with Fisher, and keep going. You don't need surgery yet, or you don't need surgery at all. Just keep doing what he's telling you to do." So now there's this incredible relationship and this multi specialty arena of all of the practitioners. We're working together, and that's really the most important thing for us, as a healthcare community, that we all work together. Back in the olden days, we used to compete against each other, and we didn't like each other. There was all these different prejudices that existed, but thank God, for the sake of our patients and their success, a lot of that has gone away. And I think it's because, chiropractic has evolved from a scientific standpoint so much, and there's so much evidence behind chiropractic that it works. So this is kind of a great time to practice now for our young practitioners. It's very, very exciting. So, but the bottom line, who benefits the most is our patients. That's our bottom line.
Well, Doctor, I think you've covered a lot of grounds there. So I want to poke a little bit on. So the first thing you said is that most of the people tend to try to mitigate any pain, with over-the-counter stuff. I think we all do that. No one wants to go see someone or get involved in a routine kind of treatment, or even try, like you said, the fear of surgery is always there. And this is, we all are always humans by default. They work, they move, they do the stuff, and we tend to injure ourselves all the time. I mean, just that doesn't matter who's watching right now here. They probably had some sort of an injury at the time or another, and if not yet, it could happen. Hopefully not, but that is always a risk. We talked about weather earlier. I mean, you never know. You walk, you slip, you fall. That could be a problem. I mean, you talked about employment and job, sites where people can get injured at work. And accident is a dime a dozen. I mean, unfortunately, it's just the way it is. I mean, as much as there's so much education and awareness about driving and all the laws and stuff, people still drive, drunk, and crazy stuff happens. Or they take a challenge, and you get some loonies, that go on the road like they think they own like a plane on a highway. And so you have all these things that can happen, and therefore the risk is always high. But, and people get hurt at the gym. I mean, you go to a gym today, you see people lifting more than what they can handle. I've seen so many things on social media where people really do some dumb stuff and they get, really bad hurt, with deadlifts. And I mean, and you see some of these injuries, like, oh my God. I mean, some people literally almost break themselves in half, and so those are the things that come from regular living. And you're right. There's a lot of different options, but it starts with like, well, I just got a little pain. And what we don't, you talk about neurological stuff, and most of the stuff, we are an electrical system literally running. And you pinch anything, then the electrical systems don't function well, and then you have all these pains. Your legs are numb, your arms are numb, you're not able to do this, you can't move properly. And also, like, sometimes because of the work we do, I mean, we sit a lot. Sometimes a lot of people are in offices and they sit. Now they have these special desks that you can stand and things and elevate with. But in the longest time, that wasn't the place. So people would just be sitting in a certain portion. You almost kind of like start developing. To talk on that curve, I'm looking at your picture behind. It's exactly how we wind up like this. And then you have also age. You have other things that affect the whole system. And then of course you have diseases that can also impact these. So there's many opportunities where this can happen. And then you're right. People do therapy based on whatever the doctors would determine. But you're right. The range of chiropractic can be quite a bit, and it could alleviate a lot of the pain and a lot of the suffering, and really get you back in a better shape. And if you could, I mean, anybody can tell you. And again, we love our surgeons because they save lives and do a lot of stuff. But anyone that a knife, you're going through anesthesia, you're going through a wrist, there's clotting, there's a lot of stuff that can happen, post surgery. It's always dangerous, and that's why you have sometimes you have allergies from blood thinners or whatever. So it's all the after. So people, if you can avoid that, that's awesome. But if not, ultimately, I mean, you said it yourself. You as a chiropractor going through surgery, firsthand what that looks like and what can be done. And I love what you said, that you are teaching, in an institution that is very well recognized in the field of chiropractic, I guess in the state of California or nationally and even worldwide. And you're perfectly stated that today is a great time for folks to really get into it. Now, I want to ask a question to that effect. It is a medicine piece. It is a medicine art. It is a medicine. It's part of science and medicine. How does someone go into the chiropractic school? Is that like you have to go to medical school first and go, or you got to go straight to an actual chiropractic school? I mean, just the general question if people are wondering right now.
So now, of course, I've been practicing for 32 years. Back when I was preparing for chiropractic school, we needed 60 transferable units to be accepted into chiropractic school, which the base of that was biology. So the vast majority of people just gained their bachelor's of science in biology, so an undergraduate work of biology before, and now it's basically required. So most of our students that are entering chiropractic colleges and universities across the nation, they're required to have a bachelor's of science in biology. So you think of pre-med, pre-chiropractic, pre-dentistry, it's virtually all the same. You have to take anatomy, organic chemistry, biochemistry, physiology, all the basic science courses first. And then once you're accepted into chiropractic school, that's where you start to get more of your clinical training. Like our school here in California, the Southern California University of Health Sciences, we have options for programs where students can do like what I did back in the day. I did a 5-year program that was condensed into 3 1/3 years. So rather than 2 semesters a year, I had to take 3 semesters a year. So it was year round. It was really difficult, and I didn't have any time off. There's no breaks. But now we've divided it up, and we give the students options where they can do, their 10 terms of 3 semesters a year, or they can divide it up over 4 years, where they're just like medical school. They take 4 years, and then you have to do your internship or residency and get ready to take your boards. So it's a long process. I mean, it can take 8 years total of training and studying before you can become licensed in certain states.
Wow. I mean, I was going to ask that next question, like what's the time frame looks like? I mean, 4 years, and then you add up, quite a bit. I mean, it is pretty lengthy, but again, it is important. I mean, it is a practice that requires a lot of knowledge, because you certainly want to be helping people, and you have to know what you're doing. And I love that there's practice to it and things. So thank you for clarifying that. So if everybody watching and listening, now you know what to do and how to go about it. And certainly it is something that is needed in our world. So the next one is, you mentioned something about a couple of things. One, you talked about, let's say, pinched nerves, and I think you kind of alluded to that. So what are some of the typical diagnoses that you actually see, where people they need actually some sort of chiropractic work?
Well, let's go from the lowest point up. Patients initially, they come with pain, and we have to determine where the pain is being generated from. And of course, us as chiropractors, the vast majority of the treatment that we provide is spinal related. So it can be irritated nerves, pinched nerves, which can originate from the spine. Not to use too sophisticated of terminology, but we have facet syndromes, we have subluxations, things like that, where the bones of the nerves or the bones in the spine are actually pinching or compressing the nerves. And then, yeah, exactly.
I felt that. I just felt that.
Yeah, right. But then I would say a big chunk of the conditions we treat are disc bulges and disc herniations, which everybody, most everybody's heard of. And, it's our job to take that pressure off the nerve so the nerve can function 100% at its maximum capacity. And we have lots of different techniques that we can use, but the primary one is our spinal manipulation, our adjustment, where you hear that popping or clicking in the spine. And that, so many people are afraid of hearing that because it's kind of a creepy sound.
So it's like you're snapping the neck, poof.
Yeah, right. Oh, you're breaking the bones, but the reality is it's not, and it's actually a very natural reaction or phenomenon that happens, and it's pressure release. So like by using my hands, if you can see, if you cup your hands together and you create the suction, and I'm not sure if you can hear this, but
a little bit. It's hard.
Listen. That.
Yeah. I heard that. The pop. Some people say it's air, but is it really air?
No, it's not. The technical term is called cavitation. And what happens is those bones get sucked up against each other. And in the human body, the joints where the bones touch each other or come close to each other, they're soft and they're moist and they're filled with fluid because they have a capsule around it. So it's the fluid in the joints that cause that suction, and they get up there tight. And then when you pop it off, it's actually the reverberation or the rushing of the surrounding fluids go in, and they smack each other. Like if you take anything, if you take your hands, even air, when you hear, thunder, it's that air just crashing against the molecules, and it makes the sound. And so, and the reality is, the louder the pops and the more pops, that means your joints are healthy. So they had studies years ago where they took people, this was in Europe, they took people with different degrees of degeneration, which is, it's the dehydration of the spine. And they put these little sound transducers on the patient's bodies, and they adjusted them. And they looked at the x-rays and they saw, wow, the healthy people, you have these really loud pops, and the people that aren't so healthy, where their joints are dehydrated, you don't hear any pops. So the healthier you are, the more pops you'll hear because there's more fluid in your joints.
So that's a good thing to hear. So as long as I pop, it's good.
100%. It's actually a good thing. It's not a scary thing. That means you're healthy.
So I guess we gotta have to make sure that we're super hydrated to get that. I love that because I've seen enough videos and things of chiropractic stuff, and you see people moving that neck, and it looks like brutal. I mean, it looks like you almost have that neck, or you pop. Like I remember when I did my sessions, they would put me on the little table there, and they just kind of move your legs up and stuff, and next thing you're like it just like everything's popping up. I mean, but it feels good after a while. Like you're like, oh my goodness, you think like fresh, brand new. I mean, and this was literally over 20 years back. When I got injured in martial arts, and from like a spin kick, literally, and then it did it. So I got hit, and it was just not good. So I was like, then I did my treatment, and it was awesome. Obviously, I got more careful after that. But yeah, it was great feeling that actually decompression of your bones. So but it's amazing. Like people they see it, but you're right. It's like when you see it, it looks kind of visually scary. It's one thing when they did it, and it's instant. Like it looks like 1, 2, pop. Oh,
boom.
Wow.
Yeah.
So thank you for sharing that. I mean, there's that. Now, the injuries that cause these things. I mean, you talked about herniated disc. I think we hear that all the time. I mean, that's kind of more common level. And what can you tell people? I mean, like, what are some of the things that they can do to maybe avoid injury? Obviously, we don't want people to be injured. Obviously, we want them to also, you're in practice for a reason, but it's just that balance. But people do get hurt. What are some of the things that you tell people, like post treatment, to avoid? I mean, or that's the other thing. You can fix someone, they go back to whatever routine they have, and then again, now it can get worse. So what are some of the advices you'll have there?
Well, so I think honest to God, probably the main problem that we treat in chiropractic practice is gravity. Okay. So
you can't run away from gravity. We're on the earth, man.
Nope. Father Time and gravity are undefeated.
Oh, that's real. I mean, that should be a quote, the note somewhere everywhere.
Yeah. And we know now that the statistics, I think that have been accumulated over the last, 1 or 2 decades, that 70% of all humans will suffer from low back pain at some time in their life. And at the same time, 70% of all humans will suffer from neck pain. Okay. So we have found, because of our poor postures, and especially because the evolution of computers and smartphones, and even more so now, because of COVID and people working at home and having poor workspaces, the ergonomics of their workspaces have not been ideal, because they may be sitting at their couch on their computer and hunched over their computer and losing, like here, I don't know if you can see me from the side, but losing that normal curve in our neck, because God intended us to have that natural curve in our neck, our natural curve in our mid back and low back. It's slowly been going away because of poor posture, poor body positioning, a lot of different factors. So we try and educate and stress our patients in maintaining your frame up at its highest point, maintaining those curves. So, simple things. We'll tell patients to, raise their monitor up so they're actually looking up at it rather than looking at it or down. And also too, using our smartphones, even just holding it closer to our eye level really helps eliminate that loss of curve, which now there's actually a new term that they use called tech neck. So tech neck. Yeah.
This is it. You're like this.
Yeah, it is. That's 100% it, So, gravity and poor posture creates a big pool of patients that suffer from, numbness and tingling in their hands or their arms. They get headaches, they get neck pain, they get, super tight traps and upper back. And in chiropractic, we can treat all of that, by our adjustments and therapy and things like that, to help restore those normal curves, which is really fun, because you can see patients, evolve and progress in your practice and see how they're improving and getting better. And, not only they feel it, but they live it. They live it.
Well, Doctor, thank you for that. I mean, so some of these things, like, when you curve your neck and all the stuff, I mean, is reversible as long as you take care of it. It's not, or it could be permanent if you don't do anything. I mean, is that even an option?
Yeah. It's so, it's like anything, if you leave it for too long, it can become a chronic problem, where when there's actual bone changes and disc changes, where things shrink down and they get closer to each other and you get bone spurs that grow out, then you might have a more permanent situation. Like me with my neck, after my first surgery, I was actually afraid to get adjusted because I had the surgery, and my surgeon told me, he goes, "Look, you wouldn't be in here for this second surgery if you didn't get adjusted more." And I went, wow, well, I was afraid to get adjusted, and I'm a chiropractor. So thank God he told me that. This was years and years ago. So now, I tell my patients who do have surgery, after they're stable for about a year, and the whatever hardware they put in there has grown in and it's not going to move anymore, they still can be adjusted. They can still get traction. They can still do a lot of the therapies necessary to keep the other discs healthy so they don't degenerate too. So I think, most of us that resist treatment, those are the people that actually need the treatment the most. and and it's
I think I'm one of those guys.
Yeah.
I mean, I do it as extreme measure when I have to, that macho thing, like I got this, I can take the pain. I don't think it's a valid, option, man. When the pain kicks in, you want to get the help.
Yeah, totally. So, it's fear. It's fear. Fear is it paralyzes us. And when you're in a moment or a part of your life when you're in fear and you're afraid to do anything, the best thing to do is move, go anywhere. It doesn't matter. Just get out of where you're at. And I know it's difficult because I was afraid too to get in, but you got to try it. It's better than sitting there and doing nothing, because it could evolve into something that's more permanent, and then nothing can help you but maybe surgery. And you want to avoid that. So people have to overcome their fears to get more motion in their spine. And initially it might hurt a little bit, but you got to give it time to do its work and try and help the body restore its normal motion and normal positioning,
Well, thank you, Doug. So another question that comes to mind is that I know some people are born with some potential defects in their skeleton and the structure.
Yeah.
Are there any are they, first of all, I guess, fixable, or repairable, or maybe like things that you can help them, in terms of either alleviate the pain or even remove whatever those I guess shapes or defects, I would call them, for what it's worth. Is there what kind of, those problems that you see, and, are they, what's the percentage that can be fixed and versus not, or maybe that's ultimately surgery, is a mandatory, step?
Well, that's a great question. I think probably one of the main ones is scoliosis, which is the S-ing. Like you can see my little spine here. This is from the side view, but some people have that from the front view, which is not normal. And some people are born with scoliosis. It's primarily on the mother's side that's passed down to their daughters, because it's been found that scoliosis is a little bit more prevalent in women than it is in men. But you can be born with scoliosis, and you can correct it if there's not actual bone changes where maybe one side of the bone is smaller and the other side of the bone is bigger and they're wedged. But if the anatomy of the bones are normal, you can restore normal curves. But it's just like putting braces on teeth. You have to be adjusted over long periods of time. One of the original studies that I was in, we took before, during, and after x-rays on patients, and we treated them just like the same principles as orthodontistry. We treated them, many visits over a year, and we could see with our own eyes, and the patients could see with their own eyes, that their curves were getting straighter and straighter. And we didn't even originate the study. The studies were originally done in Alabama by a group called Biophysics, Chiropractic Biophysics, where their goal was to restore normal curves. And they could see that they were actually doing it. And so thank God that there was such a great research organization where they started to, put out their data that they were finding in the restoration of curves. And so, like in my office, that's the main thing I do is my practice is all about the restoration of curves. It's not just the elimination of pain. It's the restoration of curves and then the prevention of those curves coming back. And it can be very, very successful, where people, normally they would just be progressing and progressing. Like you see the little old people with the hunchbacks. Mm-hmm. Well, you can see over time, they're getting taller and they're standing up straighter and their curves are getting better, and they can live, great lives. It's not a death sentence. Once you see, those abnormal curves like that, they can be fixed in a lot of situations.
So what about osteoporosis? I mean, with age, is that something that can be fixed with chiropractic, or that's just a natural process?
Well, that, it depends on what's causing it. That may be more of a nutritional and physiological effect, where the bones are actually getting weaker, where the matrix of the bones are not able to hold the normal mineralization. make them stronger. But in chiropractic, a lot of chiropractic practices have a strong nutritional side, and nutrition can help that too. The body has amazing healing capacities, and if things are done right and you have your proper nutrition, your proper activity levels, you can help restore those bones back to their normal strength. But in some situations, if it's so severe and it may be some type of inability for your body to metabolize and to hold on to those minerals, then you might have to resort to stronger medications to help, hold and keep those minerals in the bones to keep them strong.
So thank you, Doc, for that. So there is a nutrition aspect to this whole thing, and are there things that we are doing today or wrong in terms of our nutrition that can contribute to not having the proper posture or having these problems? Or, maybe there are some advices that you can give, like just to have, because we do nutrition as well on some of the shows, and we talk vitamins, we talk minerals, but what really some of the core things that we have to have, to actually at least help our, structural integrity, if you want to call it that way.
Well, I'd say the very first thing is water.
Interesting.
And it's as simple as that, is that most of us, we're drinking coffee, we're drinking Cokes and soft drinks and,
hard drinks.
Drinks with a lot of sugar content. And over time that dehydrates the body. And, we're made up of, 75%, 90% water. And especially like in our discs in our spine, it ranges anywhere from 50%, closer to almost 90% water, depending upon what layer of the disc you're looking at, from the collagen fibers, because you have type 1 collagen fibers on the outside, type 2 collagen fibers closer to the middle, and in the center we have these proteins called proteoglycans that hold water, almost like a baby diaper, holds water in the center of the disc. And, the disc dies over time by being dehydrated. That's what degeneration is. So water is hugely important for so many daily functions. So that's the number one thing. If you could just switch from all the soft drinks and the coffee and teas or whatever you drink, and just drink water on a regular basis. Like, you see people walking around with these big jugs of water. That's a great tool. That's a great thing to prevent problems from happening in the future. So that's one. Two is there's so many vitamins out there now. There's so many incredible, different companies that make some really high quality vitamins. But if you're just taking a simple multivitamin, if you're not taking anything at all, you should be taking at least some multivitamin to make sure that you're getting the proper nutrients that maybe your diet doesn't offer you. Like, it's almost like an insurance policy or a safety net. If your diet, if you're not eating enough vegetables and enough fruits and things like that, you have to supplement your diet with a proper amount of vitamins to make sure, because those vitamins are important for our body to function from a physiological standpoint. And then, of course, like I've done this more recently. I've gone back to intermittent fasting, and I have more of a keto-based diet where I have healthy fats, I have healthy proteins, but I'm minimizing the amount of carbohydrates in my diet, because carbohydrates, like if you look at breads and cereals and chips and crackers, white rice and pasta and things like that, they taste really good. But the problem is, if you're not exercising and you're outputting energy and burning energy, all that stuff can turn to bad fat in your body. So there are things that we can do that are really simple, but it takes a lot of discipline to do it. And it's hard for people to do it, which I totally understand. It's so easy to go to fast food, and we have such fast lives. It's so easy to go and do those things. But if you look at the the quantities of food on plates when you go to a restaurant, there's all these fillers. There's potatoes, there's French fries, there's bread. They bring these constant little, baskets of bread out to you, and you're just eating those up, and they're filling you up. But it's just calories. There's not a real nutritional substance that you're putting in your body for your machine to work. So, I guess that kind of puts in a nutshell of some things you can do.
well, no, thank you. That's actually very, extensive stuff. And unfortunately, most of us would not even relate, for example, water to your bones. I mean, we think water is good for your skin, for your kidneys, for, maybe your blood, but not really for your bones. And I think today, I mean, it's just for people watching, listening. Now, we need a lot more water to keep that structure. Yeah. But you mentioned something also just as powerful about, the nutrition and the diet types that we have these days. So have you seen, I mean, you practice long enough that, there's a whole new generation ahead now that is growing, and pretty much their diet is limited. I mean, I think our, children, I can see it with my own. I mean, they don't have a lot of diversified. They don't eat fruits. They don't eat vegetables. They're picky. And a lot of it is just the fast food, as you said. So there is not enough intake, and most of them don't even want to take, minerals and or supplements. And so, have you seen an increase in children's, chiropractic problems, if you want to call it that?
I've noticed that two things. One is their inactivity and their poor nutrition. So, they're not exercising enough. They're on their computers, they're on their smartphones, they're on their, I don't even know what they're called anymore because my kids are older, but they're, what do they call Game Boys? Game Boys. What are they,
well, they have
computer games. Yeah, they're on their computer games all the time. So that is really kind of a sad generational problem that's been happening. I see kids come in with really, really bad posture. And it's because they're in such a technological world, and they're just addicted to being on those devices all the time. And they're not outside playing catch with the football and baseball, chasing each other around like we used to do. Like our parents used to say, "Hey, get out of here, go outside and play, get out of my hair." Now they go, "Here, just go on the computer, get out, just go on your stupid computer and get out of here," which is a problem. And then also too, because we live such fast lives, it's so much easier to feed our children prepared meals. It's quick, it's easy, it's cheap, and it takes time to cook vegetables and prepare fruit, which is, it's really a scary, scary thing that I really worry about our future generations, because they're growing up in this environment. They're being taught this is normal. And it's, our parents used to force us to eat vegetables, and we couldn't leave the table until we were done eting our vegetables.
And unfortunately, you can't do that these days. I mean, that'd be a form of abuse if you keep.
Yeah, you can't do anything anymore. I used to get spanked. God forbid.
Well, you mentioned the a very, very taboo word right now. I mean, can't use that.
I know.
Listen, I've been there. Listen, we're old school, I guess. We're prehistoric, maybe. I don't know, but
yeah. Dinosaurs.
But that's actually unfortunate that the technology is, while it's serving a lot of purpose, I think it's also hurting our basic anatomy, basic functionality. Yeah. And the one thing that I can see maybe as a some sort of a ray of light, I would say, would be maybe with the Meta world and the visors. Because now you can literally do activities that you're standing, and I have that model because my son has one of those, and all those games are actually literally like at least you're not sitting, you're up, you're running, you're active.
Right.
Maybe that could be a shift, and that's, I think, the next generation. So maybe there's gonna be a shift that's gonna help, but nothing actually replaces the true, just go outdoors, walking, running, doing all the stuff.
Yeah,
so,
totally.
So thank you for that. So one more question. Now in terms of the activities, people tend to do all kind of activities. Some are running, some are going to gyms. Are there any type of maybe problems that you encounter or you see that are driven, from those types of workouts and activities that they're done, whether it's maybe weightlifting or, maybe just doing the wrong thing, or maybe a sport that is, more damaging than other. Are there any things that you see as trends and maybe things that can be done differently in that aspect? And then the next one that we're going to talk about is your word traction. You mentioned it a few things, and that's a core that we're going to talk about today, because that is your, I would say your contribution to the world. So we'll talk about that.
Right. Well, one thing I've noticed too is that, people are getting into, CrossFit and high intensity interval training, which is phenomenal stuff. And, like we've talked about before, I'm 56, I'm old school, but when we used to work out, we worked out with belts. And we had, the old school belts, the leather belts, to help support and protect our spines. And I don't know when it ever happened where people say, oh, don't use the belts. It makes you weak. Well, it's the complete opposite. It doesn't make you weak. It enables you to lift higher weights to get stronger. But at the same time, it's protecting the integrity of your spine. So belting up and using supportive type, apparatuses where you're wrapping your knees or wrapping your elbows, those are all preventative measures. Your muscles are still contracting underneath them, and you're still, while using them, you're able to load your body with more weight, more resistance. So your muscles are only going to get stronger, but what's happening is you're protecting the joints. And that's critical, because when you get a joint injury, that can become more of a permanent problem, because if you injure the bone or the disc, that can be permanent. So by belting up or using, those elastic bands to wrap around your knees and your elbows, or putting those neoprene sleeves on your knees or elbows, those things are incredibly beneficial from a preventative standpoint, and you shouldn't shy away from using them. It doesn't make you weak. And who cares if the image is, oh, you can't do it, because you got those things on. Well, when I take them off, let's see how strong I am,
Well, thank you for that, because it's amazing. It's almost contradictory, because if you think about even military applications and stuff, exoskeletons is the way of the future. Is like how to be able to do and have super soldiers. And we see that even in the merchandise, or at least the storage units and some of these big warehouses where they have these units that they can help them lift things and carry stuff easily. And it's amazing, because that's really the next generation. You want to have these little extra things and compression and so on. So your body, to your point, is like really in the best shape, and it helps your structure. And there's very little, I guess, push that you have to do, because it helps you do it very easily. But you're right. I think again, it's all that concept, like, you're, you don't look good. How tough are you if you're going to put this stuff in? And unfortunately, people do fall for that personal, I guess, vanity, whatever you want to call it, because like that's the ego part that plays. To me, well, you said it best. I don't care what people think. It's my body, because if I'm hurt, you're not going to be there for my pain, right? Oh, for you, I don't need that for you. I just want to be good. So, but thank you.
If you lift heavy weights, you have a spotter, right?
Yep. I mean, that's your spotter.
There's just so you can have a spotter on your body at all times to help protect you and help you get that extra rep, or maybe add an extra 10 or 20 pounds to your workout, just like having a spotter there. It's the same concept. You wouldn't lift without a spotter when you're going heavy. So why wouldn't you lift without a back brace or elbow braces or knee braces? It's the same concept.
Well, thank you, Doc. That's important. Again, for our viewers and listeners, I mean, these are all great advices from Doctor, and understanding that if you don't do, you will be seeing Doctor.
Right.
Well, again, I mean, he is there to be somebody. Certainly, obviously, he's there as a measure to help you. But certainly, if you can prevent anything, I mean, preventative is always a key. But but they do what they do, and unfortunately, I don't know how to place it, but people do get hurt no matter how, and people still do dumb stuff, and we wind up, and seeing Doctor more than often. And listen, for what it's worth, it is live. But so now, traction. That's a keyword you've used a couple of times, and I know that is part of what you've put into this world. I mean, you've discovered some need maybe years back, and you decided to invent something to, like mother is what do you call it? Necessity is mother of invention. So there was something that necessitated, a tool, and you decided to actually take and make that tool happen to help people live and, mobile and pain free. So let's talk about that. That's your baby.
Yeah. So yeah, the mother or father of invention is necessity. And I had unfortunately for me, I was a very slow moving target on the football field. So I've had, herniated discs in my neck. And so I had disc problems, and they got to a point where it was so severe, I couldn't sleep. I could barely work. And I started using traction in my office, because I had one of those big mechanical traction tables, but unfortunately I couldn't take it home with me. So at night when I'd come home, I was in agony and I couldn't sleep. So I just started rigging things up at home on our railing, our stair railing. And I came up with this aha moment of using elastic bungees to create a pull force where I could attach a towel to my head and I could lay down, and it could provide the traction necessary to take the pressure off my nerves and eliminate the pain. And it was amazing. As a matter of fact, this is kind of a funny story. I when I came up with one of the first prototypes that worked really, really well, I hooked myself up. I laid down. I was out cold. First time I had slept for, days. And my wife came up and saw me, and she's like, "Oh my God, he's asleep." So she just took a blanket and laid it over me. I laid there for hours. I was able to sleep finally. And then when I woke up, I was like, whoa, what happened? And I looked and I saw, I'm like, oh my God, this thing totally works. So I, slowly started to tinker with it and create new prototypes that I could actually use in my office, where I could experiment with my patients. And my patients were having the same results. And we're like, wow, I really have something here. And so, thank God, unfortunately for me, I went through, a bad situation for me, but, I was able to turn it into something positive that other people could benefit from it. And now that has just evolved into Fisher Traction. And, like you said, it's my baby. So I think my baby's perfect. I think my baby's beautiful. But, we've treated, well, now we've sold over 40,000 units in just the last 3 years. We've probably had, more than that of people that have tried it, including all my patients in my office. And it's been incredibly successful. I end up building and creating with a design team, an engineering design team, a mobile, super, super lightweight. Matter of fact, I got one here. You can see it. It's well,
you got
there you go.
There it is.
This is now the main pull force of Fisher Traction, and you can see the bungees in the middle here, and the plastic, discs on the side, where this, if I can even pull it, it's got about 50 pounds of pull force. This was designed for the neck. That pull mechanism in the middle, we call that our negative G-force technology, because it's trying to eliminate gravity. But this simple, super lightweight, this whole thing weighs less than a pound. You can hook it to your doorknob, lay down, and get the proper traction necessary to decompress the spine, take pressure off the discs, take pressure off the nerves. But even more importantly, it helps to rehydrate the discs, so it keeps the discs healthy, and it can help draw back a disc bulge or disc herniation if you use it frequently and consistently enough. It's an amazing therapy, has incredible values, but probably the most important thing is that you can do it on your own. You can do it, you can control it as a patient or a user, and that's where you get the most success. We found that in our studies, that if you use it for 21 consecutive days, every day for 21 days, either in the morning or at night, that you can have incredible results. And if after 21 days, if this doesn't work, then you're going to need to go to the next level and you might be a surgical candidate. But we've had incredible success. I would say, we're probably right around 80% or more that patients are getting successful results, where it's the reduction of their pain and symptoms and numbness and tinglings going away. My wife is an incredible case study. I created one for the low back after creating one for the neck for me, because my wife had a huge 7-millimeter disc herniation in her low back, and she was in a lot of pain. And she said, God, could you make one for my low back? So I kept tinkering with it, and I made a stronger unit, and we made one for my wife. So
Great husband.
Yeah, right. Hey, those should give me some brownie points, right? Let's give me some brownie points. So happy wife, happy life.
That's right.
But we ended up taking a second MRI on my wife, and her disc herniation reduced from 7 millimeters to 5 millimeters. Then she used it again for another phase of treatment, and it went down to 3 millimeters, which is incredible. So we've seen firsthand, objective scientific evidence of traction working, and there's been other studies out there that have shown similar results. But the greatest thing is it allows all of us to have the freedom to live our normal lives, go out there, attack the world, have fun, and you can bring a Fisher traction with you anywhere. You can bring it on vacation, you can bring it to work, you can use it anywhere, anytime. It's as easy as lying down. As long as you have a doorknob, you can use Fisher traction.
Wow. Well, Doc, thank you for breaking that down. I mean, first of all, the first thing you said, you mentioned about the traction tables, which it sounds like huge. It would sound like, you get an extended and pulled from all directions on a big table, and then all of a sudden you show me that little thing. You're like, how that, and you said that's for the neck. So you pull. How does that work for the neck? I mean, just curious.
So you know what? Let's see. I think maybe here. Let's see if I have maybe a better picture. You can see it where I don't have to hold that little guy.
Well, we'll have
see here.
Yeah.
Okay. Here's one of our boxes.
You got to move it back, doctor, just because it's completely covered. Yeah, you gotta get closer to you. No, nothing. It's just there. There you go. Okay. There you go. So you can see that where you lay down on your back and you attach it to a doorknob, and the negative G-force technology, which is the pulling mechanism in the middle, and then you see in her hand she's holding on to what's called the release strap, and that release strap is really a key component to getting proper decompression, and that's one of the proprietary components to my invention, is that you go through these phases of pulling, and then you go through a short phase of relaxation or resting phase, so that your body and the disc is able to absorb water into the disc. So if you think of it as our discs, they're like sponges. They don't have a direct blood supply, so they receive water by diffusion. Okay, so like if you squeeze a sponge, you squeeze all the water out, but then as you stretch it, it pulls back up.
Pulls it back in. Yeah. But then you have to allow for a resting phase for the molecules inside the center of the disc to actually absorb the water, so they can maintain it, and you create that rehydration or the hydrostatic pressure in the disc to keep them healthy. So you can prevent degeneration. You can help restore some of the normal function of the disc if you do have degeneration by going through traction on a regular basis. It's hugely important, huge, because of gravity. Back to gravity again. You're fighting against gravity.
Doctor, thank you for actually showing it. It gives more clarity and how it works. I think that is not only awesome. I mean, just hats off, whatever. You've
Thanks.
literally, because the ideology here is that this is something you can take with you anywhere, as you said. It's small,
Yeah.
it's light, easy to use, and certainly you can help yourself. Take away some of the pain. You
Yeah.
mentioned something powerful when it happened to you. You couldn't sleep. I mean, part of our health and immune system relies on sleeping,
Yeah.
and if you're not getting enough ample sleep, a day to day, that is not going to get you anywhere. It's going to get worse for you. And
Yeah.
and we don't actually sometimes correlate these two things. And really, when you think about it, like you had so much pain, obviously with pain, you can't go because you're like constantly, like your nerves are like throbbing and, your brain is like fired up. But as soon as you took away that pressure and that, the source of the pain, you were just like, okay, time's out, light out.
Yeah.
And it was good. But I think that's for all our audiences. I mean, I know that people are watching right now, listening, guaranteed, I'm not even going to doubt that a percentage of us, if not us or someone we know, has a problem that can be resolved with this particular, solution. And I think that is important. I mean, yes, obviously you got to check with your physician and your specialist, and your chiropractor, because you don't want to just use any system. And that's my question to you. Now, this equipment, the Fisher traction, does that require a prescription? Is that something that they can order just by default?
No, but the FDA approved traction for home use many, many, many years ago. So it's a class 1 FDA cleared home device for therapy. It's incredibly safe because it's actually pulling your bones away from pain sensitive structures. So you don't need a prescription. You can buy them over the counter. We do sell directly to healthcare providers that give them out to their patients, but you can try it. And obviously if it doesn't work, you send it back after 30 days and you get your money back.
You can't even beat that. I mean, a 30-day guarantee, 30 money back guarantee is always a good one. But I know you're confident enough that's not the case. But that was an important question, because some people say, well, I have to go to a doctor, I have to do this. Well, ideally, you do want to have to go to a doctor just to see what the problem is, because you may be treating the wrong thing, right? But once you determine that there's that's definitely going to help you, just in the next stage, and it becomes part of your routine, and ultimately give you a little bit of, again, mobility, pain-free, living. And I think without pain, life is beautiful, but pain can destroy every day. I mean, you cannot be, you'll be in a bad mood. You're not going to function at work. You're not going to function, in your family. Probably going to be, very, very, just nasty to people. It can create a lot of problems for you. So I think, removing that pain issue is important. So thank you. Now this is, again, available worldwide, I guess, on your website and any other, DME, I would say, provider.
Yeah. Durable medical device. It's on Amazon. It's if you just research, you go at fishertraction.com or on Amazon and look up Fisher Traction, we're on there. We've got, I've created a great library of educational videos that are on YouTube. I have a YouTube channel that, if you look up Fisher Traction, I've got, hundreds of videos on there about traction, about chiropractic, about exercises, things like that. So you can get it, everybody usually goes to Amazon right away. That's an easy fix.
Well, you got Prime, it's easy, right?
Yeah, right. So it's out there, it's available. And if you ever have any questions, you can always email me. We're still a mom and pop company. My wife and I pretty much run the whole thing, with help from others, but I'm always available. I actually love it because, my life is chiropractic. My life is helping my patients. I love talking about, trying to help people to any capacity that I can. I answer the vast majority of all the emails and all the questions that patients have, whether it's on our Facebook page, Instagram, whatever it is. I answer the questions, and people send me, copies of their MRIs, send me their X-rays, and ask for my opinion and help. And I'm there for them. That's one great aspect about our company and our purpose and our what our goal is just to help as many people as we possibly can that suffer from spinal pain.
Well, Doctor, I can tell you, maybe after this show, you're going to get a lot of emails and texts. So get busy. Okay. Get ready for that. Well, listen, I love it. I mean, I will do whatever I can on my side to actually, share, and really, because I believe it can make, and what's more important in this whole picture is that you are patient zero. I mean, really, and you don't get a lot of that in a lot of different worlds. I mean, you don't get the one that actually created this because they used it themselves and it worked, and then they apply it in real life. Plus, you have the expertise behind it, and that's the other thing. Like, you're getting the responses from the source, from someone who actually understands the dynamics and the whole world. So I think that is unique, and so I'll be your supporter here. Awesome. Because again, I like we talked about, this is about educating, enlightening, inspiring, motivating, and helping people. Yeah. If there's a resource that can help, I know what it is. I mean, I've been, living with some pain, and believe it or not, even today, even doing shows, as you said, sometimes my neck does hurt. So I got to do all my stretching and stuff, because you're like this and you're like looking at the camera, and then doing all the social media stuff. It does take a little toll. So you got to have, some knowledge about this. So I really appreciate it. But there is one part of, we've covered a lot of grounds, and I think we're just a little over the hour here, but there is one piece of the work you do in this world that is unique. And so you're an expert witness.
Yes.
Am I getting right? Right.
Yes.
So let's talk. What is an expert witness?
Well, you have to be qualified, and I've taught, I've practiced for many, many years, and I don't know, decades ago, because I've been doing this for 32 years, I was hired originally on a case. And it wasn't my patient. It was this attorney had reached out to me and said, "Hey, Jeff, could you take a look at this case for me and give me your opinions of, do you think that this individual's injuries were related to," it was actually a slip and fall. A guy fell on some cement stairs and injured his low back. And they couldn't figure out why he was still having pain. And so, as a chiropractor, we take looks at the human body at a little bit different angle, where we're looking at position and motion. So I took these special flexion extension x-rays on this guy's low back, and I found that he had this instability in his lower spine, where he had ligamentous damage, and it was permanent, and no one else had found it. So then I went and I testified on this case, and the attorney got this huge settlement. And he's like, "Hey," he's like, "have you ever done that before?" I'm like, "No, this was my first time." Ever since then, he's hired me on, oh my God, I don't even know how many cases, but then it kind of evolved into word of mouth. He had told other attorneys and said, "Hey, this Fisher guy, he does a really good job, and he explains things so well to juries. It makes sense. They understand it. You should try hiring him." And then it just happened. It kind of ballooned, where I was being hired on cases, anywhere from 1 to 10 a year. And then I would go and testify in front of a jury, with a judge. And we'd have the defense attorney would cross-examine me and trying to test me out on my knowledge and see if I was even eligible to be qualified to testify on the subject matter that was at hand and under dispute. And I passed every time. I just kept passing and passing and passing. And matter of fact, one case I testified on, this judge in Orange County here in Superior Court in Orange County, he told the attorney, he said, "You know what? That chiropractor was the best at explaining anything chiropractic related I ever heard before." He's like, "That guy did a really good job." And so that was the best form of marketing I could probably ever have, a judge, saying that I could do, what I did. And so then I've actually, over the years, I've tried to enhance my abilities and my expertise in those areas where I can, give even more insight on chiropractic cases, on injury cases, surgery cases, things like that. So it's taken a long time, but it actually happened, by happen chance for the most part. But it's fun. It's a lot of fun. I love it. I love to hear myself talk, as you can probably imagine. So sitting and teaching juries, because that's what I do. I don't care what the outcome is of the case, because it's not my case. I'm not getting paid for that. I'm just getting paid for my time. So when I'm there in front of a jury, it's my time to educate them and teach them and help them understand, because they're truly the ones that make the decision of the outcome of what's going to happen. So if they don't have all the information, if they can't understand it to make the critical decisions, then our juror system is worthless. So I love it. It's actually a lot of fun. I don't get I get maybe a little anxious, but I don't get too stressed out having attorneys yell at me while I'm sitting up in a witness stand.
Well, they got to do their job, but you're right. I mean, I think first of all, you're passionate about what you're doing, and you're enthusiastic about it. You love it, and you understand it. I mean, you are an expert. Bottom line. I mean, in my field, I think I'm one of the experts in what I do, and I know that you are in your field. And I'm not talking about media, by the way. It's just in case people watch.
Yeah,
This is my passion, but it's my other life. But I'm talking about the insurance and the sales and the lead-in and all that. I love that stuff, and managed care in general, Medicare. But really, I know what exactly it feels like. You do like you're a consultant. You're sharing with them what it does, how it works, and then it's up to them to see exactly for themselves whether this applies, it doesn't apply, and then they make a decision. But that's unique. I mean, I have not had one person in my my interviews that actually did that. So you're the first that actually does this type of work where they have to stand. Well, actually, I had one person but it wasn't a government retiree, so he did some work in the government investigative stuff. But not from the public, but really, I mean, from a medicinal, and a practice, being on a witness stand and literally and sharing, how the injuries, how the spine functions, and how the stuff, and breaking it down to people like, oh, I mean, you see it in movies. We've seen it in all the law movies and Law and Order and all those things where they get these folks to like, well, how does this work and how does that work? But now this is. Typically, I think in your area would be like, indemnity, lawsuits, accidents, and, maybe like employee, litigation when somebody's hurt at work. So those would be the areas. I mean, unfortunately, these things happen. And to your point, for what it's worth, you're not the one that's making the decision. You're giving them what that means, from a medicinal or like a chiropractic, point of view. And the rest is really up to them. But I mean, so again, for our audiences, if you have not had that chance to hear it from someone who's been in there, well, our doctor here, Dr. Fisher, is one of the experts. And hey, maybe someone here. And by the way, this is only in California, or you've been summoned to other territories?
My license is in California, so the vast majority of all my testimony has been here. But I have been hired by insurance companies and third-party claim review companies to evaluate claims in other states. But primarily all my testimony has been here in California. I've done peer review for third party claims entities where they'll send me, these huge thick files of medical records that are pertaining to some accident or injury, and I'll review those and give them my opinion on the treatment, and things like that, but since I'm a chiropractor, it's all basically based upon chiropractic treatment and management of people who have been involved in some type of, civil litigation.
Well, doctor, I mean, listen, the insurance world, I mean, the claims, and there's a lot of fraud, and I mean, obviously I'm an insurer, so we constantly, are looking for fraud, waste, and abuse, and in all aspects, whether it's the providers, the patients, the members on the insurance side. I mean, there's a little bit of everybody, right? And so it's always looking, and expertise does come in play. And again, even internally in the insurance space, we always have medical experts to determine decisions and so on and so forth on whatever providers And I know you deal from your side, because you also work with, some, insurance carriers, as well as some of the government programs where they have, to determine whether this is a warranted procedure. Not
Right.
everybody qualifies to go to chiropractor, and some plans do offer it, some plans don't. Sometimes it's out of pocket. One last, I think we're going to wrap it up because, I've taken so much of your time. But so I know people are always concerned about cost.
Right.
Is the cost for the chiropractic, space and just the services that are there, because it's an ongoing, process. It takes few weeks, few sessions, and then the cost, the cost for the traction. So let's talk about the general thing. I mean, how does that work in, at least for you? I mean, you take insurance, you do all that stuff, and or self-pay. I'm assuming it's the same thing, right?
Yeah. So like in my practice, my practice is probably about 90% PPO insurance.
Right. So
Private pay insurance, and insurance pays for chiropractic care. And then if it doesn't, obviously there's an out-of-pocket expense. And right now, I think the national average is probably around $50 a visit for chiropractic care, which is very reasonable, very reasonable. And most chiropractic care doesn't take very long. You don't have to be in an office for an hour to get good results. You can go in, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, a half hour, and come out and feeling great. And over time, of course, because if you're trying to restore normal curves, it's going to take a long time to do it. It's pretty affordable for the most part. And of course, how it is with insurance and deductibles and co-pays and things like that. It can get very, very expensive. And that's one of the reasons why I created my Fisher Traction, is because traction's best, most therapeutic benefits are doing it on a regular basis, and having a device that may cost $100 or $150. You can use my devices for years because they're durable. They're durable medical devices. They'll last for 2 to 3 years, no problem, as long as you keep them out of the sunlight. But you can use it. Right? Yeah, they'll dry up. You can use them for multiple times, which can save you a ton of money. And that's the goal. I mean, we want our patients to get the maximum benefits possible, but at the same time, we need to make money to survive. So there's always that yin and yang of the affordability and the cost to our patients. So that's why I think, like with my Fisher Traction, I think I really, really have hit a home run, because, basically for the cost of 1 or 2 or 3 visits, you can do traction at a therapeutic level at home on your own. And then you can learn how to do it as a tool in your tool shed that you can use whenever you need it at what's best for you, So,
well, like all durable equipment, right? It's an investment. You buy it and you use it over time, and so you amortize the cost. It's literally cents on a dollar, so it's not a lot. And but the outcome and the really results will speak for themselves. And so thank you for clarifying that, because I think one of the questions is always like, is this affordable? Is this something I can do? It sounds like it is. And the other thing, I think, not only in the States, I think this is a price range that could be good across, and I'm sure this is something that people can order all over the world. So it's not even, whatever there's DMEs, durable medical equipments sold, this product can be. And so that's another advantage. So it's not limited to California or the States, Canada and other places, nations.
Canada, Mexico. Yeah.
Yep. Oh, and I'm sure there's other markets. Maybe they're listening right now, like, hey, we want that piece.
Yeah, right. And we're trying to expand through Amazon. We're trying to expand to Europe, Australia. I get emails and phone calls from people in Australia all the time about trying to get the traction there. And I've actually shipped units to Australia, but oh my God, it's so expensive, to ship from California to Australia. But we're trying to work on it. Believe me, we're trying to work on it and get the most amount of benefit to the most amount of people around the planet. And hopefully we'll get there.
All right,
That's
well,
our
listen,
goal.
I think you're going to do just fine. You've been doing great and about it. Doctor, I really enjoyed the time here, and I want to spend more time, but I know we've run out already. And I appreciate you going over the hour here, but thank you so much for all your clarification, for all your insights. And I've learned a lot. I think our audiences today are just like literally having a crash course on chiropractic business, in a different angle, because we've not done a great show before, but it was talking different aspects of chiropractic, and today is just, and I love it. Like you can get two experts in the same field, and you get two different angles, because it's just different. I mean, and today we talked about more of it, from a creation and invention, and the tools to use, as well as some of the things that you do in terms of expertise. So it's just a different angle for people, and it also sharing another resource for always a great thing, because people always wonder, like, where do I get this? What can I get something to help me out? I'm pretty sure after today, a lot of people are like, oh, I can get this thing for my neck now. I can get this for my lower
Right.
back. And easily they can do it. They don't, and I love what you said. It's on YouTube. You can just pull up the video and figure out how to do it. So, so Doctor, thank you. Any last words to share with our audiences, just as an advice, before we end the show?
I think, one basic principle that we all need to live by is motion is life, and life is motion. So when we were running away from dinosaurs back in the day, if you didn't move fast enough, you didn't exist anymore. So I hope, depend upon where you live in our great country, even if you have cold weather, you got to move, you got to do something, you got to exercise, you got to get out there and enjoy life to its maximum capacity. And whatever you do that enhances your ability to move is a good thing. So do it.
Well, with those words of wisdom, thank you, Doc. I appreciate the time and I appreciate everything today. So it was a pleasure and honor. And folks, I hope you enjoyed the show today. And so we'll be talking soon. New day, new show on topic. I'm your host, Hurricane H. Talk soon. Bye-bye.